Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Robert Cosmar of the Astrology and Consciousness Support live stream. And I am starting a little bit earlier this morning because I'm using a different software application. And I want to have time here to see whether this is going to work or not. I have had some problems on different platforms getting this particular live stream application to work, but I'm hoping here that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you'll give me a hi there and let me know that you can see and hear me. Okay, I'm going to be typing. So again, this is going to be a little bit of a challenge, and I'm starting it early because I wanted to make sure we got this out of the way if it was going to become a bigger problem for us. And we'll be discussing world events. We'll be discussing consciousness, how we are being affected by the changes that are going on in the world, and any other topics that you might want to discuss regarding astrology, regarding spiritual awakening, consciousness, and things of that nature. So, again, if you are watching me, I need you to type something in the chat window to let me know that you are receiving this broadcast. Otherwise, I'll have to go back to my other application, and I'll do that in about 4 minutes if I don't get any responses over here. And I do apologize for the inconvenience, but this particular software is more suited to the things I want to accomplish. Dallas, hello there. You can see and hear me. Great. Thank you, Dallas. It's a new piece of software that I'm using, and I'm still trying to determine exactly if it's going to suit our needs or not. But we'll see here. I started a little early this morning because I wanted to see if others would be able to communicate with me here. And I'm watching to see what it says here about the attendance. Usually it takes a little bit of time for it to catch up with actually who's here. So, again, if you are able to see and hear me on this broadcast right now before we begin at 10 o'clock, please chat. Say something in the chat window so I have a pretty good idea of who's watching the broadcast. Gaia, welcome. Okay, Santa Fe. I've been to Santa Fe many years ago. It's a beautiful city. Okay. Okay. Well, this is good. This particular software allows me to do many things that some of the other software is a little bit lacking in. And I'll just give you kind of a tour here so that you can see what the potential is for here of doing many things while I'm broadcasting with you. I'm going to put some what they call widgets out here. Okay. And in doing so, we can discuss things here relative to higher states of consciousness. The other things that I can do here that I'm going to show you, and I need to go back one. Okay, let's see here. Just bear with me a second here. I'm still trying to navigate my way through the process here. I can do some teaching of Vedic astrology. Okay. I can do some work with Western astrology. Okay. Just show you some things here that we can do. So there's a wide range of things that can be discussed in the broadcast. And the big question here will be finding my way back. So bear with me here. Okay, let's see here. All right. I just remembered that I forgot. Okay, let's see here. Widgets. Okay. There we go. I'm back here. Okay, so I got to put the chat back up. All right. Okay, S. Sanders, welcome to the broadcast. Okay. Last week we had an hour. It was one of the best live streams I think that I've been able to do for quite a while. And hold on a second here. I need to talk to CJ for a second. I'm broadcasting, hon. Can you turn the computer off for your thinking? Tell me how to do this. It's because it has to be that way for them to hear me when I'm talking. Okay, I fixed that problem. Okay, Gaia. A lot of these angles are a mystery to me. I'd love to hear more about them. Also, love to hear anything about Vedic astrology. Pretty much anything you bring forward is welcome. Okay. Uh, when you're talking about angles, Gaia, what is it you're referring to? Are you talking about the cardinal points, the ascendant, the descendant, the midheaven, and the nadir? Or are you referencing something else? If you can clarify that for me, I'd appreciate it. And I'm not getting a notification up here in terms of how many people are watching the broadcast. So if you would be so kind as to type in the chat box and let me know if you're here. Okay, that'll give me an idea of who all is here and exactly what it is that we need to focus on. So, and S. Saunders, welcome to the broadcast. Okay, so anything relating to world events, astrology, okay, spiritual awakening and consciousness, these are things that I have the support system for to try and assist you in working your way through the intensity of the things that are going on, because we're seeing an intensification of this negative energy. Okay. And many times people will misinterpret this as bad. Okay. Or you get caught up in the emotions of it. And this is where it can do real damage to you spiritually, consciously, and emotionally. Okay. We've got some other people here. All right. Mary Kincaid. Okay. Heather, welcome to the broadcast. And again, I was talking a little bit a while ago to Dallas about this. I'm trying a new software app here, so bear with me. I may appear that I'm a little bit clumsy here, but it's because I'm learning how to navigate through that, and I'm still waiting. Okay. 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 Thank you so much, Gaia. Okay. And Gaia, could you again clarify what you're talking about when you mean about no, what you just posted up here, the degrees and the different symbols that go with them? I don't know really what a lot of that means. Okay. All right. What you have to understand, and what will be a difficult challenge in the beginning when you're just learning astrology, is that astrology is a map of the energy of the moment, of which you and any event that is created at that time are made up of. Okay. In other words, the chart and all the points in the chart are referencing the energies that were present at that time, and you are a part of that energy. Okay. And this is why astrologers can look at a horoscope and get an idea about the psychology, if you want to call it that, the spirituality, the level of awareness and awakening, the behavior, the emotional state. Okay. All of these are in that horoscope. But when you're just beginning, it's not obvious because you're overwhelmed by the amount of symbols and you don't understand maybe yet what the symbols mean. And you have not yet been able to internalize or to see the horoscope. Okay. The more that you evolve consciously as a student and into maybe an astrologer, you begin to consciously awaken and you begin to see the chart. You begin to see what the chart is saying to you. It begins to speak to you. Okay. And of course, all of this has to do with how aware you are consciously. Okay. Okay, Monica. Well, good night from Melbourne, Australia. Yes, I guess it would be a little bit different here. Okay, Gaia, you put in the number 11 there. Can you explain that to me a little bit more? I did clarify, but it looks like it didn't come through to you. Okay, that's a possibility. As I said, I'm working here with new software, and it's possible that the information that you're trying to communicate is not coming through the way that we would like it to. I'm going to do change here a little bit too. Okay. So my challenge is a different degree in these symbols and what they all mean. Okay. And stuff like that. Okay. Gaia, here's something else. And if you've had a chance to see any of the information that I put into the community section of the channel, the astrology classes that I am hoping to be able to teach are not going to be your standard astrology classes in the sense that I absolutely sit there and take you step by step through the chart and I explain to you the houses and the signs and the planets. That is, of course, going to be some of that. But what I'm hoping to do in that class is to explain to you how you function as an astrologer, how you see into the chart, what you see into the chart. So I think the benefit of that is that by showing you the processes of what I have learned and experienced over about 40 years, it'll make it easier for you to connect with the horoscope, okay? At least to some degree. There is no way that you can evolve as an astrologer if you are not in some way, shape, or form meditating and expanding your conscious awareness, because that's what helps you to see the horoscope. That's what helps you to see in a horoscope what the importance is of a reading that you're doing for a client. And you can spend an entire hour just on one aspect of the horoscope without having to get involved in all the thousands of possibilities that exist, midpoints and parts of fortune and parts, the Arabic parts. So you have to understand that in that particular class that I'm looking forward to teaching, when we get enough interested people, I'm going to introduce you to the world of astrology and astrologers and give you a very upfront, honest appraisal of what it's like, some of the pitfalls, many of the challenges, okay, the reality of what it is. For those of you that maybe have toyed with astrology and you've never become a professional in a sense, maybe your confidence is not there. The hope is to be able to show you you don't have to be perfect to be an astrologer, if that is your calling, if that is your purpose. Okay. Okay. Yes. Forgot that about my question for now. I'm reading your comment in here, Gaia. I'll ask it another time. Thank you, Dallas. I was just replying to his question for what we wanted to talk about. Okay. So we're live. We're broadcasting. I don't have an accurate appraisal here of how many are watching at this point, but I know that those of you that are responded are here. And again, I want to encourage those of you that are watching this broadcast that if you have questions or you just want to say hi, I'd appreciate you coming in and just typing a message. Let me know that you're here. And this particular hour, like I said, the critical thing for me in this particular hour is to be able to answer the questions you may have or the struggles that you are dealing with. Okay, because you're already aware that there's a heavy blanket of negative energy that has fallen upon the world. If you're in the United States, you might feel it a little bit heavier. Okay, and many probably don't understand why that is. Okay, there's astrological reasons for it, there's reasons for the evolution of the planet. Okay, but it would seem that the basic thing which we are all having to come to terms with are the different levels of fear. Okay. The different levels of fear of not being in control. Okay. And our ability to still trust in the universe, or if you are, you know, of a religious nature and God is still how you see the universe. I'm sure that in these particular times that there will be a large amount of people that are going to question their faith in their religion, and they may awaken consciously, and they may come to an understanding that it's far more simpler and it's far more um, real than just believing beliefs. That we're talking about a period of time where we need, okay, to develop a real relationship that penetrates beyond our mind and our emotions into our very consciousness. Okay, let's see here. Dallas, thank you so much. Kachinala. All right. You need to get that trademarked, Kachinala. Orange Evil. You need to get that trademarked. Okay. Let's see. I'd like to hear your take on the stellium at the end of March, feeling the heat of it. Okay. Are you talking about all the planets that are in Pisces? Dallas, is that what you're referring to? You could give me a little bit of clarity there because I'm not working with the actual chart on my screen right now, and I don't want to remove myself from this. I can show horoscopes in this, and as time goes on, if I choose that this is the one that I want to use, the software app, then I may try, to put in different things, focus on certain charts. Okay. Um, well, I think obviously Saturn is in there, and there's a bunch of other personal planets. Okay. And it's in the sign of Pisces ruled by Neptune. Okay. Uh, it's a very difficult concentration of energy. It's almost like a sense of, for example, I'll use it this way. When you watch the news almost daily, what you see coming from the news services, particularly MSNBC, is the absolute overwhelming confusion, Neptunian type of disorganization, vulnerability from it, people unqualified. Films have a way of bringing out to the forefront, Dallas, the energy of what you're seeing and what you're feeling. So toss Saturn into that. Okay, difficulties, challenges, setbacks, all of the stuff that Saturn represents in terms of its negative presentation. Um, you're just talking about a very convoluted quagmire of a mess. Okay. And that's kind of the presentation that the universe is presenting to us as we look at the news in regards to what we're saying. Uh, it's just an unbelievable, unimaginable Neptunian Pisces quagmire of madness. Okay. And probably you've begun to notice that over time, not so much referring to this stellium of Pisces and Saturn and Venus, maybe and Mars and stuff that might be in there, um, but this crude vulnerability, or not crude vulnerability, this crudeness. Okay, it could be that, Dallas. It could be that. I would think though you'd have to throw in Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune to some degree. All right, to make it a really stunning, eventful type thing. But what you're saying could be the case. Okay. And this is an excellent point. If I were teaching the class on astrology, for example, for those of you that are studying it, or those of you that even maybe are astrologers and stuff, you don't have to be perfect to be an astrologer, to be a good astrologer. Okay. There are multitudes of different ways you can interpret planetary aspects. It's not all what is in the cookbooks, the books that have been written by astrologers that talked about aspects and talked about their technique and talked about different things like that. It doesn't have to be their way. In fact, it shouldn't be their way. Okay. Hyacinth, welcome to the broadcast. This is something, like I said, that it's a big hurdle, I think, for a lot of folks that are beginning and wondering whether or not they can be an astrologer. All right. I can tell you that it is a overwhelming passion, and it's probably a past life issue that you brought with you. But don't let your sense of not knowing be the reason that you don't try, that you don't explore, okay, that you don't share your learning and your knowledge, okay, because you need to build that confidence. I used to say you can say if things will get better when Venus becomes a morning star and when, okay. You know, with so many things going on, Hyacinth, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Uh, it's very, very doubtful that we're going to see anything spectacular that is going to be other than delays because of the judges that are essentially saying, no, you can't do that, that type of thing. Um, I'm going to be doing a video. I said something here a few days ago. I'm going to be doing a video again on the ingress of Pluto into the sign of Aquarius. All right. That is an aspect, or in an aspect, it is an aspect in a way. That is a entrance into a sign that's going to last 19 years. That ingress is the birth chart of the entrance of that energy. And it tells us a lot about what we can expect over 19 years. And the video I'm going to do is going to go into a little bit more detail about what we can expect for the next 18 to 19 years. Now, transits to the planets in that chart will affect the severity of the things that are in there. But there are indications in that particular chart that we can expect a lot of volatility, a lot of emotion, a lot of confusion. Okay. And again, to some degree, the ingress is like the major theme of the period of time. The transits to it are what are the severest periods and when will things get a little bit lighter? Okay. Okay, is your class for complete beginners? What's going on with spiritual people who are for Trump? Okay, saying he's for our freedom. Well, that's an interesting combination. Okay. The class, in a sense, can be for beginners. I want it to be an open forum in which you can ask your questions about the broad range of learning astrology, of doing things as an astrologer. Okay. The basics, if you have a question about the basics, then I will address that as well. And I have the ability, as I mentioned here, I think a little bit ago, or if you saw this, I can show charts in this window here and discuss them or any of the applications I've got. Okay. And I'm always, whenever I do a live stream or whether I'm doing a teaching of astrology, my focus is on evolution and karma when I do readings. All right. So when I'm looking at your natal chart and I'm looking at what you're going through, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, what is the time in your life of your evolutionary process? What are you aware of now? Are you even aware? Okay. All of these things have to be ascertained by an astrologer to see whether or not how far you can guide them, how far you can show them things. Okay. Okay. And in regards to Trump, what's going on with spiritual people who are for Trump? Um, that's a delicate issue. I don't know to a certain extent how I can satisfy everybody who is spiritual and has a feeling that Trump is a blessing. Now, I will say this, okay, and this is, I think, being honest. All right. Um, Donald Trump is a tool of the universe, very definitely. And if you understand duality and wholeness, you understand how the darkness and the light work together, okay, to create our evolution. Actually, in some cases, in this particular case, to force it forward, okay. The difficulty is, okay, when you see somebody who is obviously lacking in certain morals and integrity, somebody who has a history of lying and deception, somebody who is appointing people that are unqualified for the job. Okay. Um, it's difficult. It's difficult emotionally. Okay. Um, to talk about that in a quote carefree manner. Okay. Um, and like I said, that may not be the answer that you wanted to hear. Okay. But it's the best answer that I can give you at this particular point in time. Okay. Donald Trump has the potential to create enormous harm to people in this country and in the world. He has been given that power. Okay. Regardless of how you see him, whether you think of him as being the beast or the Antichrist, or you think of the Antichrist being Elon Musk, you know, it's a difficult thing to totally say because people in their imagination have an idea of what they think that's going to be. Okay. And they've written books about it. Okay. It never works that way. Prophecy never works that way. It's never explicitly exact the way you have been told it is. Okay. But you get a feel and a sense. Okay. Let's see. He just became a member. Well, Gaia, glad that you're here. Okay, so S. Saunders, are you a supporter, a believer in Donald Trump? And don't be shy. I won't ban you from the channel. I may be curious and to a certain degree about your views. And if you're talking about the spiritual aspect of Donald Trump, try, and understand this. I understand the spiritual impact of Donald Trump. You see, one of the problems that we have as humans is that we have been sold through religion this idea that if you're good, if you follow the 10 Commandments, if you do everything that's right, nothing ever bad is going to happen to you. And if you're a person who's lived enough years in this life, you know that's not true. But you'll still hope and pray, maybe use rosaries or any kind of other ritual, all right, to try to ward off what you interpret as being negativity, which in actuality is your higher self taking you to school. Most people do not grow consciously because they refuse to learn the lessons that life teaches them. Okay? They avoid them, they deny them. They blame them on this entity called Lucifer, the devil, and Satan. He's the one that did it. Okay? It wasn't him. Okay? It's us. We have the absolute total power over our life, but it has become lost over centuries because of programming and because people who have been in places of vulnerability and pain, whether it's through loss or through job problems or marital problems, you get into that vulnerable situation and you feel like, oh my God, what's happening? And in most cases, if a person doesn't have some kind of a conscious awakening, they'll go to alcohol, they'll go to drugs, they'll go to sex, all of those things to avoid dealing with themselves. Okay. At some point in our evolution, we have to begin to deal with the realities that are buried within inside of us. And this is one of the great realities that we're seeing happening in our world now is that the values that have been embraced and taught through religion and through politics in some ways over the centuries are far removed from the actual truthfulness of what it takes to evolve and to make a better life and a better world. Okay. As long as we deny our personal responsibility, there can be no inner growth in consciousness. Therefore, there is no revelation of the truth. And you will fall back on another religion of a different type and a different nature. Okay. Hoping that in some way, shape, or form, you're going to find some idea that's going to give you the answer. No idea, no belief can give you the answer of what you're looking for. It has to be experienced consciously. The closest tool to experiencing that is through meditation. Okay? Because you have to silence the mind, you have to silence the emotions, You have to understand that you do have control over them. Most people don't think you do, okay? Because they've never gone into a deep meditative state, into the silence. They haven't awakened themselves fully consciously to be able to heal from the fear and the negativity, okay? That's why meditation still exists, like astrology, okay? Because they're meant to try to draw you in to the inner exploration of yourself. It's kind of like riding a bicycle. And this is a very simple way of explaining this to you when it comes to consciously awakening. Once you have successfully rode that bike, you don't have to be taught again how to do it. Once you have successfully gone in consciously into the silence, into your inner feeling nature, and you have had a situation occur where you have become consciously aware or something has been revealed to you, you will never ask again, how do I consciously evolve? Because you will have met your higher self and your guidance, and they're going to take over the rest of the training. Okay, Melissa, welcome to the broadcast. Yes, Dallas, indoctrination. Okay, okay, okay. S. Saunders. Okay, well, thank you for explaining that. Um, the only thing that I can say, going back to your original question about people who are spiritual who believe in Trump, is that most likely they are religious people who are afraid. And I'll explain to you something that I've shared many times in this broadcast. Many of you may not know that I was a Pentecostal minister when I was very young. I was a Bible thumping, hellfire and brimstone preacher, and I believed in what I preached. Okay. But there came a point in my life, because of a lot of things that happened around me, when I began to question, okay, what I believed and why I believed what I did. And the answer to that was that I believed in what I did and I did what I did because of fear. Most people who are of a devoted religious state are doing so because of their fear of the devil, fear of hell, fear of anything, fear of themselves. In fact, I will say that the greatest fear that we all carry within inside of us is our fear of ourselves. And this is why we go through our lifetime being totally ignorant of what's happening to us. Okay. I've shared this with many people in many different times. You make that breakthrough meditatively. I know I was going to belch there or not. You make that breakthrough meditatively, consciously, and you establish that inner intuitive telepathic communication with your inner guidance. You won't need to believe anything anybody tells you. You will have established a connection that was promised originally in the Bible, okay, by Christ, but it got diluted and it got transformed into something other than what it was. The experience got lost because the experience is very personal, it's very private. Okay, it's very unique. Each of you has a unique purpose for being here. Each of you has unique gifts. Okay, and zealots, that's correct. Okay. S. Saunders, I'm not religious, student of ACIM and in this deconstruction of religious upbringing. Good. Okay, so you understand, I think, what I'm saying here is that a person who believes religiously is afraid to challenge their beliefs unless they're forced. And there is no religion that is as powerful as the universe. Okay, you can believe all you want to believe your entire life, but there'll be periods in your life where you will be brought to your knees. Maybe you'll be able to deny what's happening and you'll push it off and you'll say that such and such created or a miracle happened, and that's okay. Okay, that's okay. The work that I do as an astrologer and as a teacher or coach, if you want to call it that, is not to save your soul. I cannot do that, but I can point you in the direction of what you can do about your life. Okay, and of what you can expect if you do that. Okay, those things I can talk about. All right, but you're not meant to be a follower of me or of anybody or of any religion. You're meant to consciously awaken to yourself and to discover the truth about yourself and also about the universe, about God for that matter. Okay. Well, you're welcome, Saunders. I mean, this is what I hope to do in these supports is to be able to communicate to you not only what I've gone through, but what I've experienced. Okay. And to at times emphasize the significance of astrology as a tool for an individual who is ready to begin to explore themselves. That's what its highest purpose is. Once you begin to seek astrology for what it really is, which is a tool, a diagram of the story of your life, it opens the door to understanding the whys of what has happened to you at certain periods of your life. And as you evolve consciously and you begin to understand yourself better through your relationship with your higher self, this opens a whole different ball of wax. This is digging deep into who you are, who you've been, and what karma you've run into this lifetime and what needs to be cleaned up. Okay. And it's all done in the compassionate, caring, loving support of your higher self. You can go to a therapist, they can take you to the water, but they can't make you drink. They can help you to deal with the emotions. Okay. They may be able to a degree to help you to understand the fear, but until you are able to become whole so that your thoughts and your feelings are married, okay, is represented in the tarot card, the lovers. Until you have that unity of experience, you're still going to be holding on to fear. Okay. There's still going to be fears that you're not dealing with. And that's true of everybody. Okay. It's a lifetimes situation to evolve consciously. Okay. And, you know, again, one of the things going back to what we were talking about a little bit ago about Donald Trump, there's so much fear and hatred that's being dug up right now. And it seems to be growing and getting worse. All right. The big danger is, and this is something, like I said, I've said this over and over and over again. My biggest concern all along is how far does the universe have to take us to get the conscious awakening to begin to become a really big deal? Okay. Do we have to see something like World War II? Do we have to see violence and death? I don't know. It's possible, but I don't know. But you can see a growing frustration and anger in the communication between senators and House of Representatives. Nasty kind of childish stuff like you would go through in grade school. And all of that builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And it's because, for the most part, we don't know we're responsible for what we've created. Okay. We're responsible for this. And we're even going through the experience of being called into question as to do we just say screw it, and join those that are wanting to create hatred and violence? Okay. Or are we willing to consciously look within ourselves and to say, I can't change the world, but I can change me because the universe will help me? Okay. Kachinala. See, Melissa, welcome to the broadcast. And how many are there in the broadcast right now? I'm not getting an accurate representation on my window here, which I'll have to talk to them about. Okay, Melissa, my family gave up organized religion as a result of the Civil War. That often happens, okay? Kachinala, in religion, if you believe you have the truth, others don't. Others don't. This is evil fundamentalism. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good description of it, okay? Because you become a closed cult and you only see reality from within the beliefs that you're buying into, okay? And this is a part of the problem that we're having right now too, is that, and I've said this often in the process of the readings that I've done, the Republicans are not all wrong, okay? The Democrats are not all wrong, and they're not all right, okay? The problem is not political. The problem is a fundamental conscious spiritual relationship with inside of ourselves that is stunted because of this massive fear, because we've become dependent on others' beliefs and ideas. Okay, let's see here. Melissa, again, Trump could not bring himself to even touch the Bible when he was being sworn in. Okay, that's an interesting question, and it's a very difficult thing to talk about Trump on my channel and not to focus on the damage being done. And I realize that is a hard thing for people to understand and swallow. How can you embrace Trump as a tool of the universe and watch everything he's doing? Well, a lot of that has to do whether or not you see life in a dualistic view of good and evil being separate, or whether you see good and evil being the same energy working for the same purposes, conscious evolution. And that is a conscious revelation, all right, that can come to a person who consciously surrenders, meditates, and begins to see things from a higher level consciously than what we're talking about now, which is pretty much emotion. Okay. Uh, he is providing a service as a tool of the universe to bring about evolutionary change. The fear is how far is he going to take it, and how much is that going to hurt you and me? And to go a little bit further now, okay, like I said a little bit ago, there are many out there that think that if you pray enough and if you do this and if you do that, that evil can't touch you. But that's not true. World War I proved that's not true. World War II proved that's not true. The Vietnam War proved that's not true. You can pray until the moon doesn't come up and the sun don't shine, and there will still be episodes of darkness in this world, because you and I, with the hope of evolving consciousness to higher levels, also contain an element of darkness. But through this life and through other lives, we've chosen not to follow that path, at least in this life. Okay, so the maturely evolved conscious human being accepts that the light and the darkness work together as a part of the whole. They are the whole unified universe. Okay, it's not divided. All right. And this, in many cases, is why people can't forgive themselves, because they won't let go of past judgments upon themselves. All right. Very harmful to you to continually judge yourself because of mistakes that you may have made. Okay. If you learn from them, then you probably have healed from them. If you haven't, then you carry them. They're unconscious and you suffer for it. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. Cachinella, Orange wants war for self-profit. I think so, Cachinella. At least that's what seems to be developing, is that they're trying to establish economic, political control, not just to the USA, but the world. All right. And here's the thing that to me is the most disturbing. And I know many of you see this too. Donald Trump, while being a tool of the universe, is also an angel of death. Okay. Everybody that comes close to him in some way, shape, or form is destroyed. And I have a feeling that Donald Trump himself has a death wish. Maybe he's tired through centuries of lifetimes of playing this role. Okay. And that may not make sense to you logically, but when you're talking about the universe, you can kind of set logic and reasoning off to the side. They don't apply. Okay. You will not understand the universe if you divide things up. Okay. You'll either be caught in your emotions or you will try to escape in some way, shape, or form the pain that those things bring you. Okay, Melissa, the Republicans just want power. They don't seem to care about the means. Okay. The citizens of the country are collateral damage. Melissa, that's true to a degree, but I also wonder whether or not that's one of the fears that we carry within inside of ourselves. Ever since the Vietnam War, the trust in the government, the trust in people has kind of gotten weaker and weaker and weaker. you know, a sense of dividedness, exists. Okay. If you take an example, I'll use this particular broadcast as an example. Somebody who sees things differently from me may want to be combative, or they may leave the particular channel. Okay. Those of you that are here are because either you see things similar to the way that I do, or that you are searching for some answers. Okay. And that doesn't mean that I'm absolutely right. I don't see fully, completely, totally into every aspect of what's going on, but I trust my feelings. And I do know, and I trust the astrology, even though I'm not always capable of being absolutely accurate all the time. Okay. No astrologer is. We're not the savior of your life. An astrology reading is not going to save your life. It may give you some direction and understanding about where you're at and what's happening, and point you in the direction of how you can deal with what you're dealing with. But you still have to make that decision at some point in your life, whether or not you're going to find the answer on the outside or on the inside. Okay. And what I was trying to get to there, Melissa, is the fact that, again, going back to Donald Trump, there's so much emotion, so much hatred for the man. Okay. And yet he is a tool of the universe. He is working for the overall purposes of the evolution of humanity. He's breaking up the stagnating situation that has infected us politically, mentally, and emotionally. Okay. In that sense, you can see the positive aspects of what's going on. And again, going back to this one, concept that I talked about, probably a few minutes ago, you cannot go through life with blinders on and believe you'll never be touched by darkness, that you'll never suffer the loss of a loved one, that you'll never fail. Okay. The worst thing you can do is to blame the devil for it. Okay. And not learn the lessons, the deep personal spiritual lessons that are in those events that you go through. Okay. And I know that's not always easy to swallow or easy to hear, but if you are consciously mature and aware, you understand that life is full of light and darkness, and they both serve the same objective, conscious evolution. Okay. So that understanding is important. Okay. Uh, okay. Gaia, angel of death. In a sense, he's an angel of death. Okay. In a sense, and a very miserable human being despite all the wealth. Okay. He is obsessed with control. He feels that if he is in more control, okay, that he will achieve some peace of mind. But each level of control that he tries to exert, there is that ego hunger for more control, because the ego is never satisfied. It never finds peace. Okay, Dallas, my fear is about my children and grandchildren. I'm a little long in the tooth to be concerned about myself. I worry for their life. Dallas, emotionally, that's totally understandable. I have a son too. Uh, there's grandchildren, in the family and stuff. And the only way that you can find some kind of peace of mind about that without worry is to transcend your focus from your emotions into your conscious awareness, into your astral connection to your higher self, so that you can see and understand and remember the knowledge that you carry with you about the truth about life. Because all we see on this side of life, mentally and emotionally, is the fear and the violence and the anger and the death. Okay. As you transcend this world, you will not see this world in the same way from your higher self point of view. Okay. And that's where that peace that passes understanding can come into play. That's where that word, biblically, everlasting life, was what it was meant to say. Is that once your life transcends the fixation on your mental and emotional body, and the illusion that all of life is right here, and you begin to soar on the wings of conscious revelations, you will not have that same dreaded feeling. And you'll realize that each one of you watching this broadcast, you are an eternal being. You are your higher self, but you have consciously chosen to become human, to experience a certain freedom to decide for yourself whether or not you want to live pursuing this fictitious illusion of an ego. Do you want to continue to become like Donald Trump, who's kind of the apex of an ego in denial, attempting through control to try to be God? Okay. And of course, the last challenge for Donald Trump is death. That'll be his last big challenge. Okay. Let's see here. Melissa, the DC area could be economically devastated by federal government job removal. Actually, the entire country, if not the entire world. All right. What you may not be consciously aware of this, there is a global awakening, conscious awakening going on to where many folks are beginning to remember themselves as their higher self. And they're beginning to understand how they can influence the physical reality that they have been living in. And yes, we're probably going to end up in some way, shape, or form going back to the basics of having to be good neighbors and having to count on each other to be able to make decisions about how to handle things when it seems like our government is no longer capable of functioning. That's a very great possibility. Okay. But the other thing on a personal level is the realization that if you've been playing a victim for most of your life, you never had to. But you did have to go through the lessons that you went through. And when that dawning comes, here's another illustration for you, for those of you that are wondering about a relationship with your higher self. Let's say you're standing in a room that's fully lit and there's a door in front of you and you peeked through that door. Okay. But it was dark and you were afraid to go into that particular dark room. You weren't sure what was in there. Okay. So you resisted going into that room because you could not see what was in there. But somehow you found a light switch and you opened that door and that room was fully lit. All right. The experience of experiencing your higher self is the same thing, is that you were consciously aware of the person that you have been your entire life, the way you think and how you emotionally feel. And then all of a sudden you walk through this door and you realize that you were much more than you ever possibly could have imagined. That's what it's like to interact with your higher self. It's a transition consciously within inside of you from a lower level of conscious awareness to where the mind and the emotions and the ego, all right, the false self has been functioning for most of your life. And all of a sudden you break free from that and you begin to rise on a conscious pillow, like one of those flying carpets. And you begin to see and to feel differently. You begin to understand and to know differently. You begin to remember differently about this life. Okay? You begin to soar above depression because depression requires judgments, negative thinking, negative emotions, and fear to grow. And when you transcend that through a transcendence into your higher self consciousness, there is no fear because you remember and you're not lost anymore. Okay, Melissa, I'm afraid they are going to send our, let's see, county into depression. All right. Again, there's no other way to say this to all of you. It is a struggle and it is a battle. And it's a battle and a struggle between your emotions and your mind, and whether or not you begin to look within to the source of your own, I guess the word in a way would be salvation, but it's more than that, your own conscious rebirth. And I know how difficult it is if you're not having that experience, how difficult that is to be able to transcend, okay, or to even believe what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you from experience. And if you have been an intuitive person and you have been a person that has um, experienced telepathy to some degree, those are very low level indicators of your interacting with your higher self or your guidance. All right. But what you want to experience, what you want to embody, is the full remembrance of that within you. Okay. You see, now in different levels, you're living with doubt. And the only way to break through doubt is for the clarity of truth to shine itself consciously within you, for that light switch to go on. When that light switch goes on, you have no doubt what's in that room. And it's just that instantaneous. The light goes on and you know, okay? And you establish an entirely different relationship within yourself that is an extremely higher level than the one you've been living with for maybe 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years. Okay? And again, I can't prove that to you, but I can point you in a direction as to where you need to go to find it. Okay? There is no, this brings up another topic too, that it took time for me to come to this realization. Okay? It's that I've talked about the problem that we have with judgment, whether it's judging ourselves or judging other people. The universe does not judge. It doesn't judge us. It doesn't judge anybody else. They judge themselves. We judge ourselves. Okay? Judgment is a great way to keep yourself from spiritually evolving. It's a great way to continue to suffer. Okay? But it's not that easy to let go of that. I understand that. It's like you have to have permission. You have to realize consciously that you have had the permission all along not to punish yourself. But because you were conditioned through commandments and religions and stuff, okay, you are repressed. Most of us suffer from some form of repression. All right. Repression is a denial of freedom, freedom to grow, freedom to learn, freedom to make mistakes. Okay. It's understandable, Melissa. And again, you have to take into consideration the fact that uh, trust has been an issue that has not been well developed on a humanity level, or on an American level. Okay. Uh, Again, it goes back to self trust, trust in the universe, trust in your power to create the end result of what you want by following your higher self and your guidance. Okay. This is what the question you have to answer for yourself. Do I live in fear? Do I live in doubt? If you're a believer in your thinking and in your emotions, and if they're negative and you let them go through your mind day in and day out, you'll feel depression. Okay. Because you're creating it. Okay. Okay. Again, going back to what we're talking about here, Melissa, those fears are all in your imagination. You have not experienced those yet. You might not. The important thing to understand is that they're in your imagination right now. Okay. And this is true of anybody in any particular situation in life that you're in. If you let your mind and your imagination and your emotions control you, you will stay consciously at a lower level and you will experience in the world the effect of that. As you break free from those low level identities, to a higher conscious awakening within inside of you, you begin to experience life in a totally different way, almost a magical way. Okay? Almost a magical way. Things will get better. Things will not seem as dark. All right? You'll begin to wonder where your old friend fear went to. Okay? But it's not something you can just believe and get away with. It's something that you have to know. Okay, I'm going back up here, Guy, to what you were saying. At the beginning of the chat, you asked, what would we like to learn more about? And I said word angles, and what I meant to say was aspects. You had a chart of many aspects. Okay, very briefly here, and then we'll have to cut this short, as I've already got my hour in here. And again, I'll reassess this particular aspect of this particular program. Aspects, Gaia, are how planetary energies work with one another. If they are oppositions, squares, and in some cases conjunctions, it means the two energies are not working harmoniously. They're expressing themselves in some form of disturbed manner. If they are sextiles, trines, and sometimes conjunctions, it means the two aspects flow harmoniously, and you experience what the planetary energies mean in the physical world as a pleasant experience. Okay? This is the depth and the breadth of how astrology is. It will describe in great detail for you everything that has happened to you, everything that is happening to you, everything that could happen to you. Okay? And again, if you combine that with meditation, with inner work, all right, you'll begin to understand on a more deeper level what we're talking about when we talk about karma. And this can help you to understand why these certain challenges keep coming back in your life over and over again, and how you can break free from them. Okay? All right. So again, would somebody let me know, because I don't see it on my screen up here, how many folks we have in the chat? How many people have watched the chat today? Just give me a number in the chat room, and I'd appreciate it. I'm thankful that you're all able to see me. And I'll reassess whether or not I feel this is the absolute best, okay, best possible application to use. And Jim, I heard someone say that Hitler destroyed his democracy in 53 days. Will the institutions hold? Again, Jim, I'll say the same thing that I just mentioned to Melissa. And this is why I caution many of you, be careful about what you're watching on TV, because their intentions and motives, while they may seem pure, may not be totally pure. They could be motivated by this green stuff. Okay. The worst effect is that your imagination becomes polluted. How many times have you heard in your life or gone through experiences where you feared the worst and it never happened? Probably more than you'd like to admit. But this shows how the imagination can lead you astray, and how the imagination is not necessarily a friend to the truth. Okay? Because your imagination doesn't give you the total power over your life. That can only come through a conscious rebirth and a conscious awakening. And this is part of what it is we're trying to do here, is to not just talk about the astrology part of it or world events, but to let you know you do have choices you can make. You do have power. Even though you may not believe that because you're so full of doubt, you do have it, but you haven't investigated it to find out. Okay. And that's probably the biggest test for everybody, is if you don't try, if you don't go within, if you don't seek what's in the silence, you're never going to know what I'm talking about. Okay. And that would be unfortunate for your own peace of mind. But that's not a condemnation of you. This is one of the things I tried to say in the earlier part of this entire thing. There is no right, wrong, good, and evil as it's been presented. It's karma and choices that are made in a lifetime, predestined, fated, so that we will choose to learn or not learn. Some will learn and evolve, others will not evolve and learn. Okay? And that is not a condemnation of them. All right? It is a mistake consciously to hate Donald Trump. Okay? It is a trap. And you don't want to be caught in that trap. You want to be elevating your consciousness. I know that some will say, oh, you're just sticking your head in the sand and that's a denial. I understand that. Okay. But I also know that fear and violence, okay, and that politics are not the answer. The only answer is a rebirth in humanity's consciousness. And that will happen at some point and to some degree. And what we'll go through to get to there is anybody's guess. And it doesn't do your imagination any good to wonder. Okay. You'll torment and torture yourself. Find a way to escape your mind and your emotions. Meditate. Go into the silence. Discover the world in there for you, because that's where the universe is. That's where the answers are. Okay? Again, thank you for 27. Awesome. Thank you, Dallas. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to promote this. I'm going to do a video, I think, not only of this particular project that I'm on, but also the classes. I want to get away from this idea that all I'm going to be doing in those classes is to teach you the signs and the planets and such like that. If you're going to fully be excited about astrology, you need to understand it more than just that. You should know the basics or be learning them. Don't get me wrong. And I will cover the basics to the degree people want to understand them, like I did here. Okay, when the individual asks about aspects, I'll do my very best to help you to understand that. But there is so much more important things to be understood about what is happening and about what you're going through and about how to deal with it. Okay, that just teaching little things about astrology are so small. Okay. Okay, Dallas, thank you so much for your support, all of you, all 27 of you. I look forward to being of service to you and sharing with you more insights on a weekly basis. If you get a chance to and you liked what we did today, tell your friends about it. Okay, and I'll do my best to make a decision on what software I like the best and minimize the chaos that causes me. And I'll see you next Saturday at 10 o'clock. Okay, and I will do a video, like I said, on the classes to explain them a little bit more and post that and let you know when I'm going to be doing those, if we have enough. I need to have at least 12 people. And I have a special email address that I need those who want to be a part to contact me at. And then I'll give you more information at that point. Okay. All right, everybody, I hope that you have a great weekend, and I hope that the effort and time you spent today has put a smile on your face and warmed your heart a little bit more than when you began to watch.